Everybody, welcome to this short lecture on symbols. I think we see symbols all around us and we use them to communicate with others all the time. I mean, think of the emoticons we use when we're texting people on our phones. And for this lecture, I'd like to talk about how symbols operate in literature. And in literature, the association between a symbol and what it symbolizes is sometimes many layered and it's not so straightforward. A symbol usually conveys an abstraction or a cluster of abstractions. And I'm going to go over a couple terms, starting with traditional symbols. Some symbols have been used by many people for a long time. White dove, a red rose, they're both recognized as symbols of peace and romantic love. A few symbolic characters or settings are considered archetypes. Archetypes are literary elements that recur in the literature and myths of multiple cultures. For example, a garden may be an archetypal setting for innocence, and many times archetypes will borrow from existing myths and religious traditions. Now, along with traditional and conventional symbols, I think it's important to mention how symbols within the world of a literary work can operate individually. That is, symbols have a meaning in the world of the work of fiction. No one typically associates any symbolic meaning to a coffee maker. However, within the fictional world of orientation, where there is a passage that kind of thinks about Mr. Coffee, we could plausibly think of some of the symbolism attached to that very mundane piece of machinery within the office kitchen. Moving on to allegories, an allegory is an extended series of symbols that encompasses a whole work. So today, I think we often employ allegories to imply how a story expresses experiences or truths that are shared by a community. For example, George Orwell's Animal Farm is often read as an allegory, a political allegory for some of the things that he saw and didn't like within his society at the time. And we could also even think about a more modern work of fiction, such as The Hunger Games, kind of being an allegory for the excesses of America and developed worlds. Like other figures of speech, symbols are most effective when they can't just be neatly translated into an abstract phrase. And even going back to the traditional symbol of a rose, and we have a work where the title explicitly mentions a rose for Emily, and I think Faulkner's use of that word within the title really gives food for thought. We think about, well, who's giving a rose to Emily? What are the elements of passion and love that we might typically associate with a rose that occur within the short story? We might even ask, how does concept of romantic love become complicated in this macabre story, and also how maybe the rose can function as something else. Typically, we also give a rose when we want to pay tribute, perhaps to somebody, and so I encourage you guys to look for symbols as you're reading, and to kind of underline and annotate your work as you read. especially if an object is mentioned frequently or if an object is mentioned in the title of a story. I think we can try to figure out whether that serves as a meaningful symbol or not. Last but not least, I want to emphasize that not everything needs to be a symbol. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, but it certainly makes more fun, to read when we read with symbolism in mind. And I hope you look forward to the readings that we have for this coming week. Thank you.